Does anyone want to make fun of Konstantin Kisin? Does anyone want to shit on Konstantin Kisin? I kind of want to a little bit. And the reason that I want to is not just that Konstantin Kisin has run around the internet calling me insane. It's that Trigonometry posted a video earlier today. The real reason socialism is on the rise. Is anyone else kind of dying to know what Konstantin Kisin thinks the real reason socialism is on the rise is? I think we are entitled, and I think we are obligated to this information. And I think we're gonna watch this video. It's only about 7 minutes long, which means it will inevitably take me about half an hour to rip apart. And we're gonna see what Konstantin has to say. I mean, listen, man. I guess there is a universe in which maybe Konstantin Kisin said something smart. Maybe there is a universe in which Konstantin Kisin made a rare, valid point. You know, we always leave room for that. Even though Konstantin Kisin has lied about me on the internet, even though Konstantin Kisin has run around literally on more than one post saying, that bitch is literally insane. She is a narcissist. She is literally crazy. Even though Konstantin Kisin has unethically lied about me all over the internet, even though Konstantin Kisin never paid attention to what we were doing here, even when my community was sending it to him, even though Konstantin Kisin pretends to be an intellectual when in fact I think he's a midwit at best, you know, we always leave space because sometimes people surprise you and sometimes stupid people make valid points too. And we have to leave room for that. We're going to be the intellectually honest corner of the internet. And that's what it's going to be. But I want to watch this video, and that's going to be what we do to kill time between now and the start of Spy Stream. And you know, I heard about this Candace Jubilee thing. People have been sending it to me. Maybe we'll watch it at some point. I heard she talked to a queer Marxist. I mean, it's probably a good idea. But let's just see what happened, and we will start Spy Stream in about half an hour. And if you don't want to watch this, then you can leave and come back. All right, everyone, calm down. So let's see what Konstantin had to say. If my browser wants to work. Come on! Oh, why are you doing this to me? Okay, it worked. Paid promotion. All right. Everyone mount the like button for me.
Why socialism is on the rise.
Hang on. I'm sorry. That was way loud. That was way fucking loud. Hang on.
In the wake of Zoran Mamdani's win in the Democratic primary for mayor of New York, there's been a glut of commentary from people who didn't see it coming, attempting to understand what is happening. Some, like investor and former Trigonometry guest Bill Ackman, argue that Mamdani is a uniquely talented retail politician who outworked the competition. In this conception, his policies were not the determining factor.
That's actually
others, like fellow investor Tyler Winklevoss, believe that it's simply time for young people to be reminded of the realities of socialism. According to this view, indoctrinated at school and university and let down by parents who failed to prepare them for the real world, millennials and Gen Z just won't wake up until they face the reality.
Why in the ever-loving fuck are we looking to people like Bill Ackman, who wasn't even aware of most of this stuff like less than 2 years ago, and Tyler Winklevoss, who is, I don't know, the best known for being an evil villain in a movie? Like, why are we looking to these people for advice on why the Democratic Socialist won? What do they even know about it?
Of Mamdani's insane policies, like government-run grocery stores and rent freezes. Others still take a dimmer view of the next generation, proclaiming that Mamdani won because of vibes. The center-left, on the other hand, consoles itself with the notion that he was up against a terrible candidate in Andrew Cuomo. All of these people are right, and all of them are wrong. It's true that Mamdani appears to have the common touch, but many people who do are unable to produce the stunning victory he achieved. It's true that young people do not understand the history of socialism and have little idea of just how terrible the consequences of Mamdani's policies will be.
You know, this is one of the right's bullshit talking points. Young people just don't understand the history of socialism. We're the ones who understand. It's the young people who don't understand. Let me tell you what. The socialists that we watch spend most of their waking hours studying the history of socialism. That's just fact. Everything they do is around educating themselves about socialism. They spend all their time reading socialist books. They spend all their time analyzing the Russian Revolution. We are about to watch hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of them this week learning about socialism. And guess what? They're going to do historical sessions too, because digging into education about what happened in the past so they can do the revolution better this time is one of the things they talk about an awful lot. So there is no universe in which Konstantin Kisin knows more about socialism than the socialist activists we watch. And guess what? They are well aware of the things that have happened in the past. And here's what they think. They're going to do it differently next time because they've studied the mistakes of the past. Now, you can disagree with them. I certainly disagree with them. I think that's foolish at best. But that is what they think. It is not as though they are unaware. They literally say it's been done wrong for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. They relitigate this stuff all the time. They know how they want to do it differently. They talk about it. Is it going to work? No, of course it's not going to fucking work. But that doesn't mean that they aren't aware of what socialism is. So again, this is one of those things where it might seem like a nitpicky point, but this is a key example of how the right has no effing idea what they are talking about when it comes to the left. They just make shit up that sounds good.
It's true that vibes were a powerful force in this election. But politics has always been about vibes. The elections of Barack Obama and President Trump were about vibes too. And yes, it's true that Cuomo is a terrible candidate who's facing allegations of sexual harassment, as well as scrutiny for his disastrous decisions during the pandemic. But that doesn't explain the popularity of Mamdani, only the unpopularity of Andrew Cuomo. The reality is that none of these variables on their own are sufficient to explain the rising popularity of socialism.
Hey, I just want to do a quick poll in the chat. We watched the DSA organizing call literally yesterday, okay? So we know exactly and explicitly what the DSA did to win that primary election. They had over 30,000 activated volunteers. They knocked on over 1.3 million doors. They made 2.6 million phone calls, something like that. They were out there beating the streets and they profiled non-active voters. They went after inactive voters, people who weren't active as their target audience. They saw a massive increase in inactive voters, people who never voted before. That they targeted specific people like in white neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods. They took us through the whole plan yesterday on the stream. You can go back and watch it. Let me ask you this. I want everyone to predict with me. One in the chat if you think that Konstantin Kisin is going to mention anything relating to DSA organizing. 2 in the chat if you think that Konstantin Kisin isn't going to mention DSA organizing at all in his analysis of why Zoran Mamdani won the mayoral nomination. 1 in the chat if you think that Konstantin Kisin is going to do the work we just did yesterday and actually listen to them talk about explicitly how they did it. 2 in the chat if you think Konstantin Kisin is going to make a bunch of shit up that has nothing to do with reality because he has no fucking clue what he's fucking talking about, motherfuckers. Okay, I see a lot of 2s in the chat. Let's see. Maybe we're all wrong. We're probably all wrong. Yeah, it was vibes. Yeah, vibes.
In many Western countries, or more specifically, many large Western cities. Every comedian has to learn this lesson the hard way. You may have great jokes, but people will only laugh if they agree with the premise of those jokes. The fact that for at least a decade our schools and universities have acted as work madrasas is sufficient to prime young
Revolutionary
people for
Communists of
receptivity to
America.
socialism. But it does
Different
not explain
group, by the way.
why the ideas are landing as hard as they are. So why is socialism becoming popular? I tried to remind my conservative friends of this at the end of my speech at the first ARC conference when I said, "Many of you here are conservatives. I'm not. I look terrible in tweed. That's why I identify as politically non-binary. But I can tell you conservatives something. You will never get young people to want to conserve a society and an economy that is not working for them. We will not overcome woke nihilism as long as young people are locked out of the housing market, unable to pair up, unable to have kids, unable to plan for the future." Born in 1982, I am what you might call a geriatric millennial. I entered the workforce in 2003 and worked solidly for over a decade, making a good income as a translator and then as a circuit comedian. Together with my wife's modest income as an artist, we earned a little above the median household income in Britain. We bought our first property, a tiny apartment, at the age of 35. Far from being unusual, this is becoming normal. In London, the average age of a first-time buyer is 35. In New York, it's now 37. The counter often wheeled out against this argument is that while certain aspects of life have become more challenging, young people now enjoy access to an immense array of consumer goods, electronics, food variety, and so on. But the problem is that some things matter more than others. Housing is one of them. Most people, for example, would not want to have children until they have a place of their own.
Based on what you guys know about the type of people who would vote for a Democratic Socialist for president, or not president, excuse me, for mayor, based on what you guys know about people who would vote for a Democratic Socialist for mayor of New York City, based on what you know their goals are, based on what you know his goals are, do you believe that the reason that people voted for the Democratic Socialist is because they want to buy property and have a family? One in the chat if you believe that that is the reason they would vote for the Democratic Socialist, knowing everything you know about what he stands for and what his audience believes. 2 in the chat if you believe that that is not really correct. So 1 in the chat if you believe that the goal of the people voting for the Democratic Socialist is to buy property and have a family. 2 in the chat if you believe that is not the goal of the people who voted for the Socialist. Yeah, there's a reason I'm seeing a lot of 2s in the chat right now. Democratic Socialists want a post-capitalist society. Post-capitalist society means the abolition of private property. That means no apartments to be bought, no houses to be bought, because they're eliminating private property ownership. They don't want houses to be privately owned. They don't want apartments to be privately owned. They don't want land to be privately owned. They don't want you to have intellectual property. They don't want you to have a private business, whether that private business is big or small. And P.S., Konstantin, because I know you don't fucking know this, because you're a midwit at best, bro. Another definition they have for private property ownership is parental rights over your kids, because they want to abolish the nuclear family because they believe the nuclear family is the social reproduction mechanism of capitalism. So there ain't no way in this universe that the people supporting Zoran Mandami in New York, who are Democratic Socialists, who want a post-capitalist society. Post-capitalism means no private property ownership and it means no nuclear family. There is no universe in which this is the reason that they voted for the Socialist. Congratulations, Konstantin. You know as little as I thought you knew.
And as any parent will tell you, having kids changes everything. If you can't afford to buy your own place and settle down, you're stuck in a permanent adolescent limbo in which making the right decisions no longer makes sense. I know many people of my generation and younger who, it could be said, waste lots of money on coffees, eating out, and so on, while paying rent instead of saving up for their own place. The problem is, though, that saving £200 a month towards a deposit on your first property makes very little sense when the price of that property grows by tens of thousands every year. This sense that the things you actually want deep down are speeding away from you on a train you'll never catch is the real driving force behind the popularity of politicians like Mamdani. Young people are open to socialist demagogues not because they've sat down and done the sums on their policies.
Bro!
They're open to them because they're desperate and see no way out. This, by the way, is...
As a reminder, if you believe that this is a perfect freeze frame for him, because really this is like, he's got Benjamin Netanyahu's cock in his mouth at all times. So this is actually a perfect freeze frame for Konstantin. We can picture him getting ready to okay, I'm going to stop with the Netanyahu references, but I mean seriously though. But what was I just going to say? We are about to spend the next several days watching literal meetings where socialists are educating themselves about socialism. So if you guys believe, Konstantin, that socialists never educate themselves about socialism, please come by our streams on Friday and Saturday, because you will literally see them do nothing but educating themselves about socialism for like hours at a time, and this is just one weekend.
Always how radical and unworkable ideas become popular. The rise of communism and fascism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries was the direct result of the excesses of the Industrial Revolution. During that period, human wealth shot up, but so did wealth inequality, with the people at the top accumulating most of the gains. By the middle of the 19th century, the top 1% of people in Britain owned 50 to 60% of the wealth. Sound familiar? The rise of socialist politicians and the popularity of left-wing commentators like Gary's Economics are not the problem, they are a symptom. And until the real problems are addressed, it's Mamdani's all the way down.
Real socialists do not listen to fake socialist internet commentators, Konstantin. I have no idea who he just named was, but it's not someone I've ever heard mentioned by the left.
If you enjoy these videos, you should know that they're available as articles on my Substack at www.
That's it. That's it. That is Konstantin Kissin's explanation for why Zoran Mandami won. Bruh. Do you know why Zoran won? Do you know why? Do you know why? I posted a video last night about this. You can find that video on the YouTube channel. You can find it on the Twitter. You can find it on the Substack. In this video, what I explain is the reason Zoran Mandami won is because the Democratic Socialists of America activated over 30,000 individual volunteers that were active in doing stuff for their campaign. They trained over 500 campaign or precinct leaders within the campaign to manage the 30,000 volunteers. They have an additional 20,000 volunteers they haven't activated yet. I bet that number is probably doubled by now. So they're going to have even more and more and more. They've made millions of phone calls. They've knocked on millions of doors. They are profiling who their ideal voter is. They're activating inactive voters. Like, we saw this all on the call yesterday. This is why they won. It's not some nebulous concept of everyone wants to buy an apartment and have a family. And I understand that's a nice conservative story. And I do think that there is something to be said for some people getting pulled into socialism because they do think that stuff is out of reach. But the fact of the matter is real radical revolutionary socialists and even democratic socialists who would actively work on campaigns like the DSA campaign, they don't want private property to exist. They want a post-capitalist world. They don't believe in the nuclear family. They shit on the nuclear family all the time. We're going to hear that at the Socialism Conference this week. So what we just saw, like Konstantin Kisin do, is just flat out unhinged from what the left actually talks about. The reason Zoran is going to win, and the reason, by the way, that he's going to become mayor of New York, he absolutely is, there is no stopping this, is because he has probably at least minimally 60,000 volunteers right now. And that number is only going to go up. And they are highly organized, and they've been highly organized like this for a while, and they've had other candidates and other campaigns to practice on, and they know what they're doing, and there is no organizing structure in the Republican Party. Eric Adams doesn't have it. If Andrew Cuomo runs as an independent now, he's not going to have it. The other people running do not have the organizing structure. The reason he won is because they worked for it. The reason he will become the mayor of New York is because they worked for it. Doing the work is a foreign concept to the right. And guess what? I posted this video last night. Hey, guess what Polymarket says right now? Guess what? I posted a video last night saying he's absolutely going to win. There is no getting around it. He's 100% going to win. Polymarket currently seems to agree with me. 70% chance on Polymarket he's going to win. I think he's going to win.